I'd like to call the Social Services Subcommittee to order. So the first on the agenda is the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that Stratford is positioned on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and the neutral Honour peoples. As we gather, we are reminded that the city of Stratford is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history and home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples today. We acknowledge the Stratford is situated on land that is shared between the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and the neutral Ottawa peoples. We are grateful to have had the opportunity to live, work, and play on this land. Now, morning sun reflection. Thank you. Our respectful conduct statement. The corporation of the city of Stratford is committed to providing quality service to all members of the public, council, and our employees. Our goal is to promote a safe, healthy, respectful, inclusive, and positive environment. We have a responsibility to treat people with respect by creating safe and respectful spaces. It is the city's expectation that all trusted will be respected. Disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Seeing none. Delegations, there's none scheduled. Number 4 is report of the business integration manager. This is about the rent supplement and housing allowance review.
Thank you through the chair. Shannon, our chair, is here to present a report on rent supplement and housing allowance review.
Welcome, Shannon.
Thank you. Through the chair, this report speaks to the level of housing allowances and rent supplements in the community provided to household members for the year 2025. So overall, 195 households were assisted through these programs. We provided $943,205 worth of funding. We also referred 12 people to the Canada Ontario Housing Benefit Program, which is run by Ministry of Finance through rent portable housing allowances. And in total, since 2020, there were 162 households referred from our area to that kind of program.
Do you got any questions? Going over.
Yeah, so check is this like temporary or how long it's continued the Ministry of Finance?
Through the chair, so the rent supplements and housing allowances are provided to the households for as long as they need them or until we can get them into different affordable options throughout. So one of our mechanisms is referring it to that program, the Canada Ontario Housing Benefit, which is run by the ministry. And the good thing about that program is it's portable anywhere within Ontario. So if a client moves out or a household moves out of our direct service area, that benefit will follow them to wherever they are. As long as the households remain in our area, we find funding. If a program ends, we try and find some other funding to continue that person in the.
Councilor Bristol.
Thank you, Chair. When we say assisted, we can also frame that as like remain housed. Correct? Is another way of saying that.
Yes, through the chair, it provides some assistance in the private market for people to remain housed or to secure housing where rents are a little bit higher, either through a housing allowance or a rent supplement agreement with the landlord to stay where they're comfortable.
And just as a follow-up, when we refer to COB, do they move on to that just being their supplement piece, or it's dual supplement in that?
For the chair, they move to the COB, so it's the same benefit. Usually we use the same calculations as the province uses to calculate benefits. So until their income changes, they would receive relatively the same benefit.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much for that report.
Through the chair, there is a staff recommendation related to that item.
Okay. I didn't know who was supplementing.
Sorry, yeah.
That recommendation is that the report titled 2025 Red Supplement and Housing Allowance Review be received for information. Moved by Council Riska, and there's no more comments, or we don't need a seconder, right? No. So all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. So number 5 is 2025 year in review reports.
Thank you through the chair. We're just going to set up a presentation for this.
I'll let you know that Leslie just emailed to say she's on her way.
Okay. So thank you for the opportunity to let us present the 2025 Social Services Year in Review. Today you will hear directly from my management team about the outcomes, pressures, and service trends across Ontario Works, Housing and Homelessness, and Children's Services, and how those pieces connect for the residents that we serve. Before the management team begins, I want to briefly remind Council what it means under Ontario's legislative framework for the City of Stratford as part of the broader service system to function as the service system manager. So the service system manager responsibilities in Ontario Works are as follows. In Ontario Works, as the service system manager, our responsibilities include delivering financial assistance and employment assistance to eligible residents, including intake, eligibility, ongoing case management, and participation requirements. We are responsible for supporting pathways to employment through assessments, action plans, and referrals, particularly where barriers like housing instability, mental health addictions, caregiving responsibilities, and transportation challenges are present, all of which are reflected in the needs identified in our local action plan and data. And finally, the accountability for outcomes and stewardship of public funds, which includes service planning, quality assurance, and ensuring service delivery aligns with provincial policy direction and local labor market realities. Our team will walk you through the 2025 volumes and trends, the amount of applications, the amount of closures, and employment outcomes we've had as captured in the year in review deck. For housing and homelessness, as system service manager, we are responsible for managing access to rent guarantee income and coordinated access systems, including maintaining and administering the centralized waitlist and offer processes. Our deck shows the growth in the wait list from 459 in the end of 2023 to 704 in 2025, and the shifting mix of offers over the time. We are responsible for system service and performance oversight across homelessness services. This includes coordinated access, by name lists, tracking inflow and outflow, the acuity levels, returns to homelessness, and ensuring resources align to the need. Our by name list trends, our referrals, and our shelter emergency accommodations are summarized in this presentation. We also are responsible for managing and funding housing stability tools as the funding is available, such as rent supplements, housing allowances, and portable benefits, and monitoring how provincial, federal, and funding changes impact our local capacity. We are responsible for the oversight of the broader community housing system, which includes capital planning and state of good repair considerations in local community housing operations. For example, our repairs, our work orders, and capital upgrades, and flow through funding initiatives like COCHI, which we just heard about, projects, and this will be referenced in that slide deck. And finally, with children's services, as system manager for children's services, our responsibilities include planning and managing the local child care and early years system, including the subsidy administration, system planning with operators and school boards, and ensuring equitable access, especially as demand grows. This deck and Mandy's presentation will show the significant increase in the licensed child care waitlist across our municipalities from 2021 to 2025. We also are responsible for managing special needs resourcing and inclusion supports, so children with special needs can be included in licensed childcare and early year settings through consultation supports and resourcing where required. And finally, we implement provincial initiatives locally, including the ongoing impacts of seawell on affordability, demand, and workforce supply pressures noted in Mandy's slide deck. So as we look ahead towards 2026, our focus is on practical, measurable, and community impact, reducing the barriers to stability, improving coordinated access and flow, and ensuring our investments in income support, housing stability, and early years translate into better outcomes for residents and better value for our taxpayers. So thank you, and my management team will now take council through the 2025 year in review presentation. Alex, please start.
All right, thank you, Kevin, through the chair. Good evening, councillors. The report presented tonight is going to highlight the achievements of the OW team over 2025, as well as where we're turning our attention as we move into 2026. Key themes to highlight from the report include the ongoing caseload increase that we've seen. You will note there was a slight decrease towards the end of 2025, although we went back up to the highest number we've seen caseload-wise, not percent of the population. I want to be clear about that in January of 2026. And while we did not achieve the targets that were set forth by the ministry, when we compare against provincial averages, we actually did quite well and saw a sustained increase over the course of the year. We continue to implement strategies on our end that are going to not only improve outcomes, but we're going to ensure that the humans who access our services are at the center of the work that we do. And we're also going to continue to focus on modernization at a local level in an effort to improve client service and, most importantly, reduce the administrative burden that falls onto staff. So with the first slide, we're going to speak to our exits and our employment statistics. So we've returned to nearly pre-pandemic levels at this point when it comes to the volume of our caseload with employment earnings. While this represents a lower percentage of the total caseload due to an increase in cases, we're still seeing about the same number of individuals who are employed while in receipt of Ontario works. Exits to employment have remained fairly steady since 2018, as you can see. That's the lower line of the left chart, hovering around 20 per month, generally just under 20 per month, which represents most months between 1 and 1.5% of the full caseload. While that seems like a small number, that's fairly in line with where provincial averages sit for exits from the Ontario Works program. Often, the recent exits remain fairly low is due to the income that is being earned while in receipt of assistance. As you can see on the right chart here, the amount of earnings, which is the orange line in the graph, is actually quite low, hovers in and around $900 as of 2025. We saw a little bit of an increase as minimum wages continue to go up. We've seen a little bit of an increase in that number, but as you can see, it does not compare. It's a $500 difference now between 80 hours a month at minimum wage versus what we're seeing mostly on the Ontario Works caseload. We continue to work with our employment services colleagues throughout the community, throughout Perth County, as we look at how we can improve outcomes, how we can sustain exits from assistance and prevent recidivism back onto the program. But I think the main focus we want to highlight here is that we do have a large percentage working. They are earning a fair amount, but it's simply just not enough due to the economic situation that's currently ongoing in the community. So as we look over at our applications and our case closures, it's a little bit of a different story when we look at this perspective. So we continue to see a high volume of applications per month. So on the left highlights our 2025 numbers. We're seeing about 72 applications per month as our average, while only about 55 exits from assistance. And the 55 exits highlight across the board. It could be any reason someone may exit assistance, whether their file is closed, they choose, they move from the municipality. There's various reasons why a file may close. Except for September, we saw applications exceed our number of closures each month throughout the year, which again speaks to why we're seeing a sustained higher caseload throughout the year. Your second table you're going to see is the applications and case closures for any reason for employment and as well as applications per month since 2018. Again, you're seeing a trend where although our numbers, our exits are increasing, our case closures are increasing for employment, we're still seeing sustained applications and a high volume of applications each year as we move forward. As we go into the next slide, this really speaks to the needs of the caseload, kind of the information that we're seeing when we look at the caseload. So this is the work that's being done when individuals are actually in receipt of assistance, and it does show some of the complexity of the caseload that we're currently seeing. While there sometimes are comments about social assistance regarding individuals in receipt simply need to find a job, I think this helps paint a much different picture when we look at individuals who are actually in receipt of Ontario Works. These graphs paint a very different when it comes to health, food security, caregiving support, addictions, and housing needs. And these are all realities that are further exacerbated by individuals who live in deep poverty. The Welfare in Canada 2024 report, which was released by the Maytree Foundation in the summer of 2025, spoke to a pretty grim picture regarding OW income versus the poverty line. In Ontario, a single who is considered employable, which means they're in receipt of Ontario Works, sits at 36% of the official poverty line, and it is less than 50% of the deep income poverty threshold. A single can receive up to $10,000 a year. It's a little bit lower when you add in additional benefits. And that's considering that they have rent and they have full basic needs that they're receiving. The maximum is $733 for a single, and that number has not changed since 2018. A single parent family fares a bit better when it comes to the total numbers, although not much. The Ontario rates for a single family household sit at 58% of the poverty line, while the deep income poverty threshold, they're at 78% of that. So when you look at the reasons for non-referral to Employment Ontario, well, we are working on cleaning up the other category to get that into one of the other categories for a little bit more definition of what that means. We are still seeing that health, whether that's physical health, mental health, lack of childcare being available, or homelessness and housing crisis are the driving reasons why someone is not referred for employment services. The next slide is going to speak to a little bit of what individuals are working on while in receipt of assistance. And when we look at the volume and the complexity of individuals, when you look at the support needs, these are where individuals are identifying that they need some form of referral in the community, extra support from someone in the community to work with. We're seeing mental health and addictions are by far the most prevalent support need for our caseload. And then you couple that with the income levels that they're receiving, and then the increasing cost of groceries and housing, and it's not hard to envision why OW clients are struggling to exit from the program. The last slide from us is just a chance to highlight the goals that individuals are working on. And I want to take a moment to highlight that all clients in receipt of Ontario Works assistance, unless they are medically deferred, must be working towards some form of goal. It is a legislative requirement of the program. So while these don't reflect individual cases, because an individual can have more than one goal on their action plan at a single time, it reinforces the messaging of the level of support the residents of Ontario require from social assistance programs. More than 600 individuals have identified health needs as a goal compared to 320 for employment. So we're almost doubling those who have identified health needs versus those who are looking to pursue employment options. This tells us that our work requires a multidisciplinary approach, which we are proud of because the work that we do involves collaboration in this community, and that's one of the strong points of this community. It starts at the highest levels of government down to the front lines, where we are seeing a lot of successes, not only within social services department, but with our important and our integral community partners across Perth County. I think what I want to take a chance to highlight before I close is that our clients are resilient. They're trying to survive in a broken system at this point, and they trust us at one of their most vulnerable times. We don't take that lightly. Our staff show up to do the best work that they can every day, and I want to commend them as well, working in a frustrated system. But I think when you look at this, you can see that although the goals identified, employment is a focus of the Ontario Works program, there are so many other things that individuals are working on that really speaks to why we aren't seeing the volume of exits that some may want to see from the program. So that is all I have from the Ontario Works perspective. I think we'll take questions towards the end, so I'll pass it over to Mandy.
I've just seen this, that's maybe they could ask about the
Oh, sure.
If anybody has any questions, this question.
Thanks for the share. It's more just a clarification when we say they don't qualify for this program, just for our people watching up, they're not just turned loose, that it means there's another program that's better suited for them, right? Like when they aren't referred into Ontario Works,
Yeah.
is that,
Yeah.
And what those programs might look like to better suit where they are in their journey, essentially.
Yes, so through the chair, there's eligibility criteria for Ontario Works is quite layered. But generally, if someone isn't eligible for Ontario Works, it's either most likely it's their receipt of assistance from some other form of program. Due to the high cost we see often individuals who receive EI applying for support through our office, not realizing that EI is deducted dollar for dollar. Referrals over to ODSP, we may see referrals for programs like CPP for CPP disability or for ongoing CPP depending on age. Or individuals are employed, but they're just not making enough to sustain themselves. But we do have other programs available for those reasons, like Housing Stability Bank, like our emergency assistance through Ontario Works. There's lots of other programs. So when we do see a denial or a case closure, a lot of times they're either going to a different program or there's various reasons why someone may lose contact with the office.
I just had a follow up. I know, maybe around summertime or in the spring where they transitioned the whole application program. Like, I was just wondering what that looked like for us. That obviously we saw sustained applications, but how was that felt by the office and what that transition like?
Thank you through the chair. So the province is continuing with their centralized intake, and they are working to meet the needs of individuals. We recognize fully those with barriers will need extra support, and we've had to adjust our service delivery accordingly. At the time, they can still continue to try to get to the point where the applications are clean. For lack of a better word, at this time, administratively, locally, we are having to spend administrative time to meet the gaps that might be seen to ensure that the applications are complete to assess ongoing eligibility. It is a work in progress.
Anybody else have any questions? Councilor Ron Manager?
Okay, Chair, now since the province has taken over, has there been any efficiencies on their end, or have we seen anything like that, or are we still kind of, or has it had more workload, from having clean applications?
I think since the province has taken over, we've seen an adjustment in the budget to the budget decrease so that the services can come up. We are hoping to see in the long term some more efficiencies. The transition seems to be taking longer than we would expect. We are again trying to be flexible to meet those administrative, because our primary focus is on our clients at this point. Alex, do you want to maybe talk from your client service level?
Yeah, of course, through the chair. We have seen some improvements from the application perspective in the sense of it's people are able to apply online or call in. They're able to get applied any time of the day. They're able to get granted fairly reasonably quickly. We were a little bit more efficient at the local level when we handle our own applications. But applications are getting processed. Eventually, money is going out the door. That being said, there are challenges that are posed by that process as well. While it is great that clients are able to receive money up front, but they have to come in and meet with us. There is a downside when it comes to sometimes there's some confusion as to what that process looks like, what that means when they have to attend the office. We do have issues where applications are granted that should not be. So while there is some improvements to client service in essence, there are also some drawbacks when it comes to overpayments being created on files or files being granted that should never have been granted. Then it's up to the local office to kind of manage that and deliver the bad news and then try to refer to other programs. And while I'm glad that occurs at the local level because we have knowledge of our community programs, it does put us in a bit of a situation where clients are now unfortunately receiving overpayments when they never should have been granted and should have just been referred to another program in the first point. So while there are some operational efficiencies that we're seeing from this being rolled out, we're definitely seeing a downside to the way the intake process is being delivered here.
Councilor Driscoll?
Through the chair, when individuals are setting goals, do they also happen to say kind of what industry they're looking for, like us as councillors trying to bring industry and things like just so we can keep their needs at the front of mind when we have those conversations?
Through the chair, yes, we do have that information available at the SSM level. So our caseworkers would have that conversation. But since the upload of employment services to Employment Ontario and what they call the integrated employment services model, and Employment Ontario has those conversations and does those assessments for work, but we can access that information. If you are curious, we are able to bring something back that speaks to what the in-demand needs are. We have seen a significant decrease in job postings in Perth County, from 2023 to 2024 is about 70% in what's called tier 4, tier 5 jobs, so more service level industry, different things of that nature. There's been a pretty drastic decrease in Perth County job postings. So we do have a little bit of information from that perspective, but we definitely can get more of the actual knock codes that individuals are looking for. We do have that available through our Employment Ontario and our service system manager partners.
Councilor Norfolk?
Thank you, Alex. And you mentioned the homelessness crisis. The second piece. Yeah.
Yep.
And then what you are expecting, what you are expecting, 27, 28. Okay, what's next? What's you have any plan, you guys? Or we have any plan?
I think I defer to manager of housing from this is really just speak to the fact that individuals are not referred to EO Employment Ontario for this reason. I would let Jeff and Kim kind of speak to the homelessness housing side of things when their presentation comes up later. From an Ontario Works perspective, we'll continue to work with our clients to address whatever goals they have, whether that's housing related, health related, or employment related, and be that backbone support for them and make referrals to the appropriate agencies from an Ontario Works perspective.
Any more questions? Oh, we got another office.
Thank you.
Oh, so this. No.
Whoops. Am I going backwards? Nope, there we are, okay. Children's services, our work primarily relates to licensed childcare and other certain earlier settings. And today I'm just going to provide a fairly high level overview of kind of the state of the system and service delivery at this time. So our licensed childcare, our supports include supporting the expansion, access, significant operational funding now under the CWELL system, as well as inclusion of children with special needs. And so what I'm showing here right now is potential access rates and availability of before and after school care. The slide on the left shows the potential access rate for children from birth to age 4. And the reason why I'm showing that particular grouping is because that is what's understood to best support a full labor force participation. Under CWELL now, it's often referred to 0 to 5, which then captures kindergarten age children as well. And so as you can see, we are short of provincial average at this time. There have been some improvements over the past year, with 88 spaces opened at the end of 2025 and early 2026. However, I will also note that we've also captured nursery school spaces in this data, which are more part-time care. The slide on the right shows the number of elementary schools in the area and the number of schools that have a before and after school program. And we actually are not faring so poorly in this regard, in that about 69% do have a before and after school program. However, what we see when we look at the actual operating capacities of these programs in terms of how many students or children they can actually serve based on their available staffing levels, they're actually pretty much across the board operating at about 50% of what they're actually licensed to serve. And so we do still see some quite significant wait lists for before and after school care as well. And I'll also note, of course, that again, if a child is up to age 6, they are still supported with those deeply affordable spaces. But as I'll talk about a little bit later, we are seeing the impacts on subsidy as it relates to serving families with school-age children, as those costs decrease significantly for the younger age groups. So I think that this is quite a striking slide, a way of presenting what some of the impacts of the seawall system has had on the community. And so on the left, the purple dot there shows the average monthly number of unique children on the waitlist in 2021. In 2022 was when the province entered into its seawall agreement with the Government of Canada, and fees began to steeply decrease. And what this means is that we've seen those waitlists absolutely skyrocket. Now, these numbers do include the children who are school age and on waitlist for before and after school care as well. But what has happened here in the city of Stratford is that we've seen an increase of 118% during that period and 152% in total across the entire service area. So childcare fee subsidy is a long-standing financial assistance program and provides supports to families who meet criteria for financial eligibility, as well as have a reason for service for accessing childcare. So that must mean that they are unable to care for the child, in that there is not a parent at home. They're either working, they're training primarily. At times, we can also provide financial assistance for families who may have a special or social need as well. So, and this is the slide on the left is what I was referring to in terms of how we're seeing a much greater demand on subsidy for kindergarten and school age children. As those younger age groups, care becomes cheaper. The wait lists have become longer. How we see that some families that may be most in need of childcare are, for a range of reasons, are unable to place themselves perhaps onto wait lists in a timely fashion and have been edged out of care. We know a significant number of families that do still attain a child care spot for those younger age groups have a very low parent fee of $0 to under $5 per month. So we know the need is definitely still there, but they're unable to attain those spots. So what that slide there is showing the red slide is showing the percent of those spaces that are served by subsidy for that age group, and compared to the percentage of overall licensed spaces in the system. So school age there, 60% of the total fee subsidy we provide now is for school age spaces. Currently, we still serve several hundred children and families each year through fee subsidies, and there were 242 children who were provided childcare that was subsidized at the end of last year. And we also see the majority of our fee subsidy recipients are single income families. Okay. So special needs resources and supports. These are supports that we provide to support the inclusion of children with special needs in licensed childcare, as well as authorized recreational programs. So those are programs that are operated by municipalities. We have several programs in particular that operate over the summer months as a form of childcare, as well as in early on child and family centers. So we do have resource consultants on staff. We have 4 FTEs, and they will visit childcare programs to support the inclusion of individual children as well as all children in the center by building the capacity of the educators and the center itself to be inclusive. We do also provide funding for additional staffing where required. So sometimes, and this is seen as a temporary measure in most cases, where an additional staff might be introduced into the program while the staff built up their capacity to be supportive of all. And we don't see that much of this, but we can also provide equipment for specialized funding for specialized equipment for required. And I wanted to note too about the what this looks like in terms of the funding that Children's Services receives. So with the introduction of Seawell, the flexibility that we have to deploy our own funding has also changed considerably. So we now receive a specific flexibility funding envelope, and that is funding that we can use to provide fee subsidies to support special needs resourcing, capacity building or professional learning initiatives for staff, and as well as general operating funding that can support school age programs. And currently about 35% of our funding is actually directed towards special needs resourcing. And finally, we have early on child and family programs. So these are programs that became part of our service delivery in 2018. These are drop-in programs that families can access at no charge. It's 100% provincially funded. And the intent of these programs is to provide access to an early childhood educator. Families who may not have access to childcare can drop in. They can ask questions about their child's development, as well as meet and engage with other families. And in our service area, we do have 4 providers, and there are 20 different sites across the service area where families can access these programs and services. And you can see there are over 19,000 visits by children in 2025. And then I will pass it on to Sharon. Oh, yes.
Counselor, thank you, through the chair. Now this might exactly the problem, just will wait for people on the list. Do we provide information at the hospital, like in the maternity ward? Like, having just been there, I know they hand you a pack of here's everything you need. Like, can we provide that perhaps there?
So to my knowledge, we haven't, but we certainly could. And I have actually just had some marketing materials developed that will support sharing information about both the waitlist and subsidy with families.
And the other place I was thinking of would be like the Stratford Medical Family Doctors that when I went in there, because they already provide a great amount of speech tag resources, all those kinds of things. So yeah, good spot to distribute as well.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Wilson.
Yeah, mostly need some families, they need the care, and I don't really see a problem, this is a Ontario government, right? But why is the reason, why is this happening? I mean, most of our citizens just driving to Bristol just to give their care, right? Is a problem. They go to New York City, they go to Oxford County, right? Do you think we have with how okay, how many people is still waiting list? Right? A lot of people waiting list. If you say new colleagues, they even block up your program. You think that you have any chance of to give like I don't know, we have now surrogates like permission and something, and we try. How long?
So through the chair, I'm going to start with the provincial federal lens, then go and then of course I'm a subject matter expert. But the reality is, through the chair, is the province has brought in a program that was great for families, right? To have subsidized childcare. Unfortunately, similar to housing, sometimes the infrastructure was not set up for it. So we're going to have families now, everybody wanting licensed childcare to get it down to the $12 an hour. But what families wouldn't want that? We know there's a need. It strengthens our workforce having people working with it. However, this program, as in Quebec, will take years and years to establish. So we are now playing catch up in the sense that we have to have ECEs trained. So we have to have staff to provide the daycares. We have to have infrastructure in place to provide the spaces, and that is where the catch up is going to come. So prior, there would be a mix of private care and licensed care. Now the move is towards strong licensed care, but this program's in its infancy. It's only a few years old, and it will take years to establish, similar to Quebec. But again, it's about how do we play catch up, training ECEs, building the infrastructure to accommodate the needs of our children. Things that I hadn't foreseen that I just, again, is now, because of the wait list, mothers that are having their second, third child are keeping their children in childcare when they're home on maternity because they don't want to lose that spot. So that compounds the number of children moving in. So there's lots of variables. It's going to take time, Councillor Cordova, to see the success of this program moving forward, and lots of money. So Andy, do you want to add to what I maybe have said?
Yes, through the chair. So we know that there must have always been a very high reliance on the unlicensed sector because there was never enough licensed childcare spaces to serve the number of children that exist. We don't have a good picture of exactly what that looks like, but we know that the number must have been quite high. With the introduction of the CWELC system, the province did set a goal for increasing the number of licensed childcare spaces, and there certainly has been progress made in that regard. However, their goal was that at the end of this initial term of the CWELC agreement, that provincially across all of Ontario, there would be an average access rate of 37%. So that still means that even if that rather ambitious goal is achieved, 63% of children will not have access to a licensed childcare space. And it does vary from region to region. There are some areas that might have access rates as high as 50%, and there's others that are lower than Stratford. So it's gonna take continued work in order to provide that access. And I would say that we are very, very long ways away from providing licensed childcare to every child.
Just for the solution. You know that most of moms stay home, right? Then sometimes husband working mom, right? I mean, additional, just it's very, very important. I think so. Interesting, and then I think so. Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair, and certainly, you know, when we think about the economic state at this present time, it's become much more difficult for families to perhaps, you know, exist as a single income family. So there's certainly a lot of pressure, which then places pressure on other areas of our service delivery as well.
Councilor Weston, through the chair, I just want, and correct me if this is wrong, but some additional context to like the infrastructure discussion of, I think Stratford got kind of uniquely hit in this sense of, and this is exactly the path our family followed, was at the time of COVID, and anyone that's had a child in the last 6 years, you're looking to purchase your first home. A lot of us moved out of city centers to wonderful small communities that probably didn't have this infrastructure for a dramatic influx of young families, which is fabulous. But that was kind of the reality that brought us here, brought tons of children here. So that huge influx, plus the infancy of the program, and then the nature of work changed. That a lot of us made decisions to have children because we were both home, and now a lot of us being called back into office, and now childcare is there. And when a lot of people chose to move to smaller centers, we moved away from traditional family care structures of our family as well. So I think all of that context is really important when we compound it into Stratford being so uniquely positioned between two major city centers in an incredible place to raise a family that that really compounds our specific structure as well.
Through the chair, I appreciate your perspective on that. And correct, there are multiple variables that have impacted.
Anybody else? Thank you very much.
Chair Anderson. All right, so I'm just gonna share some information regarding our housing and homelessness systems, and I know Kim kind of mentioned this, but our role in the housing civilian departments, we manage the local housing corporation, the Stratford Housing Corporation. We have partnerships with their not-for-profit housing providers. We oversee the centralized wait list for rent caretaker funding, rent caretaker housing. We oversee provincially funded affordable housing programs, and have a role in homelessness and housing stability services. All right, so this is kind of similar to the information that Shannon spoke to, but it's a very significant sort of tool in our toolbox when we speak about finding affordable housing. Housing allowances, rent supplements, and these types of benefits are a significant tool that we rely on to make situations affordable where they would otherwise be unaffordable for the individuals and families that we work with. This kind of lays out some of the statistics for the past couple of years. The one item is our housing allowances had a bit of a decrease between 2024 and 2025. And that was with the ending of a funding stream from the provincial government and some changes in the way we calculate our housing allowances. So this speaks to, I suppose, another tool in our toolbox, and that's our rent-geared income housing and our local housing corporation. So that's our local housing corporation is 663 rent-geared income units. That's townhouses, single-family dwellings, and multi-residential apartment buildings. Looking at some of the pieces from that, in 2025, there were $3.4 million of repairs, and those are just repairs, general maintenance, that kind of thing that you would need to do on a housing stock of that size. We're still working through some of the end of year numbers for 2025, but we had about just short of $1 million of capital upgrades. You'll notice that's a bit of a decrease from the year before. Our capital budget tends to vary from year to year depending on what needs to be replaced. 2024 had a few big ticket items. We had roof replacements, fire alarm system replacements, and the installation of camera systems and electronic access to our buildings. You'll also see there was a significant increase in work orders in 2025. So those are individual work orders for each task that our staff, our external contractors undertake. And that was, we had a bit of a backlog that we dedicated staff and resources to address, and we're able to work through some of those. So this is shows some trends in the way that we provide rent-geared income housing offers from our centralized wait list. So you see the number at the right is our offers year to year. They can vary a little bit depending on the number of people who move out of our units. The one area where we've seen a fairly significant change in the way that we offer units is we've seen quite an increase in the special priority offer type. And special priority offer is determined by the province, and we're legislated to offer that. So it's for individuals who have experienced abuse or trafficking, and then they will have their housing offer expedited. So we've seen a significant increase in that, where in the past year, the majority of our offers were special priority, which means there are fewer chronological offer types. So for people who have been waiting on the centralized wait list, and for individuals who are experiencing this. So yeah, just another sort of statistic or some information about centralized wait list. You'll see, things tend to, the wait times overall are decreasing, which I guess is good. Our chronological is increasing. our special priority is decreasing our homelessness appetite. It's shifted a little bit. We it's implemented a process a couple of years ago where 1 in every 5 of our chronological offers is for individuals experiencing homelessness. And you'll see on the far right hand side that and as Kim had already mentioned, that our wait list is increasing, which is there's a trend in that direction anyways. Couple more slides. So this one more speaks to our homelessness and housing stability divisions, and so that's our outreach teams are folks working in the community to get people housed and keep people housed. Focused with our community partner agencies who are doing similar sorts of things. And this is kind of the mix of referrals that we see from organizations to our local binding list. And the most prolific referrers, I guess, are our partners with the Canadian Mental Health Association and our internal staff, whether that be our outreach workers or our Ontario Works team. But we see a number of referrals from our community partners and lots of partnerships and supports. And just because an individual may be connected to one of these agencies at time of referral to the binding list, that doesn't mean that they necessarily don't. There's not a we aim for a wraparound approach where they can find the services and the organizations that they need to support. So here's some trends as far as individuals and households on the binding list. So what we can kind of see from this is most people exiting homelessness to housing are locally housed in the private market housing. We see a good portion in subsidized housing, so that would be our social housing. Typically, the one number which is challenging is, in 2025 we saw 45 individuals who were housed in return of homelessness, and there's a couple I wanted to sort of highlight or emphasize a couple of reasons why this could occur, and one of the reasons that this may occur is because individuals are having a challenge finding housing that is appropriate for them. And that could be because the housing is unaffordable, because there's housing affordability can be challenging at this time, particularly for individuals in receipt of social assistance. And the other challenge would be finding appropriate housing as far as potential supportive housing options that we could have. So the last slide that I have is just some characteristics from households on the binding list. So the numbers here are cumulative numbers throughout the year. So our number of households on the binding list currently is around 120. This would be any household that was on the binding list at any time in the previous 3 years. So the numbers tend to fluctuate a little bit, but our general makeup index has remained the same. Just to sort of jump back to Councillor Rodolfo's question about the path forward for housing and homelessness. It can be a challenging landscape for those sorts of things. Housing affordability remains a challenge. The social assistance rates remain a challenge, so which make housing potentially difficult to obtain for individuals and families. I know we're doing a bit of a housing scan currently to just get an idea of our local market, and one thing has seemingly changed the there's been a change in the last year, and that's a smaller amount of room rentals available. And room rentals used to be a sort of a way into the housing market that could be more affordable. We're seeing fewer of those available these days. So I think our path forward is to continue onwards. We'll continue to use the tools that we have in our toolbox. We will continue working with individuals to find housing where we can. We'll support affordability through housing allowances and rent supplements. We have a strong network of community partners where we can build as supportive and positive relationships around individuals, again, to find them housing, to keep them housed. Those are the ways that we move forward. Kim, anything you'd like to add?
Not through the chair, I'll wait for questions.
Okay. And I believe, I guess I get the honor of saying thank you, unless Kim, would you like to say thank you?
No,
Thank you.
thank you.
Any questions? Councillor Rodolfo?
Yeah, thanks so much for the presentation. I'm just understand it's very clear about how I use homelessness from home to homelessness, right? It's growing. Are you sharing with the water tiny house with water or some kitchen? I know we haven't really planned to do this, so I know that the kids you see your head down.
Yeah, yes.
Are you sharing any if we send it there, if they have any space in the water or?
So through the chair, I'm going to speak again, but I'm interested. Thank you, Jeff, for using tools in the toolbox, because now that I'm going to continue with that mantra, which is so great. When I look at return on investment business cases, I still believe that supportive housing, long-term supportive housing, is the answer, the right fit housing for the individuals. When I look at the tiny homes, those are generally meant for transition. When I look at what's happening in Waterloo, in London, those haven't been transitional housing. I'm not necessarily seeing individuals leave those housing into permanent housing. Okay, so however, the money being spent on those equates to what we would spend on permanent housing in a business case. What we may have to take a look at, because we never say never anymore, as we look at that, is that the right housing for some individuals with the right business plan, with the right funding? Then that may have to be an answer for some. However, in the long term, I will still advocate for permanent housing with supports. So if funding came through where it made business sense, yes, but I still see them as transitional. The issue comes is I'm not seeing that they are being used as transitional, and people are living there for longer terms because they're unable to secure permanent housing.
Just for things over to, I know you try to give you your thank for it first. Are you sharing any data like Toronto they are sharing with the Czech people, Toronto their own data? Are you sharing with London or whatever kitchen, if something like house available, the data for you, and then you are sending to like kitchen or maybe whatever, something like that, where is available house?
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Wardorf, through the chair. I'll start this and I'll see if Kim has any follow up. Our housing stability team, our outreach workers, our community partners have a good grasp and a good knowledge of what's available, what resources, what supportive housing programs are available, and all different types of supportive housing programs for unique and individual needs. And sometimes those aren't in our community. So sometimes we will have a program in another community, another city that suits the needs of a specific individual, and for their housing and life stabilization, health, success, they will attend. They could attend programs in other regions, programs in supportive housing environments in other regions, and we've seen, we've seen a great deal of success when there's the type of supports that are the right supports are tailored to the right individual needs, I would say. So that's my first.
Yeah. So through the chair, examples, acquired brain injury, someone with acquired brain injury, then they may have permanent supportive housing in another area and they may get accepted into that program. So that's the example.
The wait lists tend to be long.
Yeah, and the wait lists are long. Yes. So yeah, that's where I got to.
Councilor Bristol?
Thank you to the chair. Well, first, thank you. And that's what we really should be saying. Thank you to all of you. I just had on the slide with where it shows how many houses. I think it said 68 for the last time. But I guess I don't know if it's a suggestion or a question. But this one here, yeah. I think once we get that data on essentially what our supply looks like, I think that's really critical to bring into this slide, because we could say 68 housed, but did we use up 100% of the supply? Because that's a very different reality, that it looks like less housed, but we use every possible opportunity that we had available to us. And so that's a very different picture for the public and for us, to bring that kind of narrative into it, as well as then looking, once we start to look at needs as well, right? That, well, we couldn't get to 91 because we just have a lack of 2-bedroom houses, or we have, like, I think that's, because I think people look at raw numbers and then forget context sometimes. So.
Thank you through the chair. That's an excellent suggestion. I mean, I should have clarified. This is for our local housing corporation. So it is a finite supply. It is 663 units. When you speak to 2-bedroom units, I think there are about 10 2-bedroom units in the housing corporation. So yes, that suggestion is much appreciated and would better paint a more fulsome picture.
So through the chair, that would equate to 100%. That being said, but I do want to come across, because I'm going to use this as a platform, and it's about vacancy rates, and we haven't necessarily spoke about that, but we hear from the public a lot of the time, well, there's a unit empty and we haven't, it hasn't been filled and it's been empty for a couple months. What we are seeing is an increase in the cost to turn over those vacancy rates. So it takes time, time to repair the damages, and to get them so that they're livable, to put new individuals in. So between the fact that individuals given the offer may have to give 2 months to get in, that is why you are seeing units empty. More so, and so that's a common complaint. Well, you have this many on, and I can tell you there's 8 units empty right now. But what's happening in those 8 units? They're being prepared for the next person, or that person is in the 60-day waiting list that they can take over the unit. So does that explain that well enough? Because I think that's something we haven't necessarily brought to this forum and probably need to.
Yes, thank you, Ken, through the chair. Yeah, it's the other piece of that puzzle which we can begin sharing as well, or to bring back some more data on is we do see more than one would expect. We see people refusing our housing offers by the time they arrive. I think I wouldn't want to hazard a guess. I wouldn't want to say, but we can take a look into that. But we are seeing a trend of people refusing offers, maybe because they applied to all housing waitlists across Ontario, and then when their offer came up, they decided they didn't want to take them to Stratford or items like that. But we can do a little bit of a deeper dive, which again increases our time that units are vacant, because you offer and then you have to go through it.
Be great. I think that staff is left out of the conversation a
Yeah,
lot.
that's correct, and I'll take this opportunity to.
Any other questions? Comments? Thank you very much for that excellent presentation by all the departments. So not really, if you haven't asked me about it. Kim's gonna talk to you after. Okay. Any other questions or comments? So, we have 3 recommendations here, the report titled Ontario Works Divisions 2025 year review, we received your information. Councilor Driscoll, all in favor? Here. That the report titled Children's Services Division 2025 year review, we received your information. Councilor Bean, all in favor? There. That the report titled Housing and Homelessness Division 2025 year review, we received for information. Councilor Niger, all in favor? Carried. And thank you very much for that was a great review over the year. I think we all appreciated that and being able to ask questions, and it helps us with our job too. We know how hard it is, like when I look at, what was there, over 91 people that moved out, over 5,000 work orders. So if you were doing work orders 365 days of the year, that's 15 a day. I'm not sure how you even get that all done. And people say, well, a house is empty. Well, we're not just moving people, we're also fixing where people are, plus renovations that have to be done because somebody's become disabled and they need accessible things. There's so much going on in the housing department, plus trying to get people housed. And then some people struggle when they get housed, and we've seen it happen. We definitely need support for people. If you've been living on the street for years, it's a lot different than you and I that have been in a house, moving into a house, and all of a sudden you've got 4 walls around you. You have a whole new life now. You've been thinking different for many years maybe. And that would be hard. It's overwhelming. I can equate it to sort of like when my kids were little, I was shopping all the time. During the week, on the weekends, going into stores and seeing all the people. My kids are all grown now. My grandkids are pretty well all grown now. So they usually get gift certificates now. So when I go shopping now, it can be very overwhelming because I'm not used to going into the stores all the time. So people that have lived on the streets now have to go into a house and now have groceries, they have cleaning, they have to do, planning a budget. People living around them hearing the noises, it's a whole new environment. So it's, Kim's emphasized many times, and I 100% agree that you need support, you need help, or they're gonna end up back on the street again because they won't be able to stand it. And we have to be mindful of that. And as a society, we have to think that way too about helping people and some people that are housed. Like we saw the mental health and addiction, the rates, it's astronomical compared to when I was a child anyway. Of course, a lot of things were hidden back then too, where things are out in the open, although there's still a lot of hidden things that are going on. I commend you for all your work. It's not like a happy burden, where you're. Well, I guess sometimes it's happy if you're able to help everybody, but it must be frustrating when you've got so many people on the wait list, so many children on the wait list, and trying to get them there, and still having patience. You've got to have the patience of Job to be able to do that. I think I speak for all of us. We really appreciate it. Councilor Rodolfo, do you want to say something?
Appreciate. Kim, I have a question. Are you sharing with United Way with this week? There is some project that policy United Way in there too.
Sorry, through the chair, are you asking if we work in partnership with the United Way?
No, but they're doing a new project in this too, right?
Yes, we work in partnership with them. So what you'll see come out of that in partnership is we will support some of the individuals. It's gonna be mixed use with portable housing allowance, rent subsidies along that lines. Is how we're supporting United Housing. It's about the individuals that they are housing in and attaching subsidies with those individuals. Or the units, depending on what project. We discuss each project with the United Housing.
Any other questions? Okay, so we'll move on to department updates.
So I think through the chair that speaks to himself, and I'm hoping I'm gonna read that, Mandy, but you know what, Mandy, I'm actually gonna get you to speak to, there's a change in the infographics in children's services, so. Might as well again come from the subject matter expert on this one, so.
Sure, through the chair. We have up until this year been reporting on the level of acuity of children that are being supported by resource consulting in licensed childcare and early on settings. In recognition of the shifting nature of the work, the emphasis on providing class-wide supports, that we really see the childcare program as a whole as the client. We have made a change to how we are reporting and are instead reporting on still the number of children served, but instead of acuity, also the number of programs served and the number of hours with which they have been supported.
Any questions on the report? So I'm just trying to back up to the spot. So that brings us to our next subcommittee, will be April the 14th, if it's needed. That be in city council meetings, so that's something comes up, so we need power on. So the next one is adjournment. Councilor Nigel will move that. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the work.